Welcome to a Bookish Q&A with me, Johanna, MeMyDogAndBooks. Get to know me a little bit more. I was lucky enough to hit 2k subscribers, so I asked you lovely people for any questions you'd want to ask about my reading, about my life, about the doggos. And so I've pulled some of the questions where there's questions around. So I've actually not put them in any sort of order, like they've not made them bookish or personal. I'm just going to go through them as and when. There's been a couple of duplicate questions, so hopefully I answer them okay. And no further ado, grab a cuppa and let's have a bookish chat. So the first question was about my booktube channel, which is how much time do you spend filming, editing, like in a week? And I've got to be honest and say pretty much a little bit every day, because I'm either coming up with ideas and then trying to sketch out what those ideas. So if I'm doing book recommendations, I'm adding to my list for, I'm hoping to do spookish book recommendations next week. So I'm currently making notes of all the books I would recommend for that. I'm either filming, like I'm doing just now, or I'm exporting to my laptop and editing, or I'm making a thumbnail, or I'm answering questions. So I'm doing something every day. What I would say is probably I'll spend a few hours between Friday and Tuesday editing and getting the video ready, because if you're new to this channel, you might not know, but I drop a video every Wednesday morning and every Saturday morning. My Saturday morning ones are my weekend reading vlogs, and Wednesday can be a mix of book recommendations mainly, or any tags, or like this one's a little bit different. So my Wednesday one's always a bit of a mix up. Mostly I try and do recommendations, and my weekend ones are always my reading vlog. So I'm doing a little bit every single day, to be honest. Probably if I added up all the hours, I'd be like, so, and sometimes I do like get a wee bit under pressure, but it's pressure I put on myself because I like to do this. So, for example, for this weekend's weekend reading vlog, when that is coming, I am aware that I'm out on Thursday and Friday night, so I need to front load all my editing and everything into Tuesday and Wednesday night, because I work full time. I work compressed hours, so I work longer days, Tuesday to Friday. So I try and squeeze it in and amongst all of that, lunchtimes, after work, weekends, and everything. But I love doing it. I love being here. I love talking. I love talking about books to you. I love chatting about books to you in the comments. I love sharing book recommendations, sharing a bit about my bookish life. Honestly, I love it. So if I didn't love it, I wouldn't do it, but it does take up a bit of my time. So another really good bookish question I got was, what would be the top 10 books you would take to a desert island? Right, so far I think I've got 6 or 7. I wrote these down so I don't remember. Misery by Stephen King, because it's one of my favourites. On the Savage Side by Tiffany McDaniel, top notch, top notch. A Christmas Carol, because I read it every year. And then that made me think of other sort of more classic books like Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, a favourite. Matilda, also a favourite, by Roald Dahl. The Shining by Stephen King. See, I love thrillers, but I'm kind of like, if I've read a thriller, you kind of know what's kind of happening. I say that right enough. That's Misery. Maybe I would take a series. The series count as one book? Oh, I don't know. What other books would I... I'm trying to think of the books that I would normally like reread. I would definitely take a seasonal, like, festive one, as spooky season one. I'm trying to think, like Reformatory. That was a chonk. Oh, and that makes me think, would I take another Stephen King, which would be a chonky one like The Stand or It? Because that would give you a lot of rereading. And, oh my goodness, is there a genre I've not got there yet? Maybe I'm going through all my favourite authors, I've got the Tiffany McDaniel, so Let me come back. Right, I've got another 2, I think, to give you. Oh, such a hard question. It's like when someone says, "What's your favourite book?" I can't possibly tell you because I have so many favourite books of different genres. It's like if you had 6 kids and you said, "Which one's your favourite?" And maybe you do have one, right? But you shouldn't. Now, this one I quite liked, which was, if you could live anywhere in the world in a book, where would it be? Now, I'm going to answer this with 2 because there's 2 that I quite. So it would either be at the Mad Hatter's Tea Party in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, because j'adore, or more recently, the Pages and Co. bookshop in the Pages and Co. by Anna James series, of which I think there's 5 books, because she lives in a bookshop with her grandparents, and in that bookshop she can like jump into books because it's like a magical ability. So I would like to have that and live in that bookshop. Clearly both children's books. Then another one was, which book character do you relate to the most? And I think I have to say Matilda by Roald Dahl, because I just, I resonate with her as being a geeky kid at school, just loving books. And I mean, obviously didn't have the same life as her. Clearly, well, obviously, how would you know that? But I didn't. Okay, but I do relate to her the most. She's just like, I don't know, just I could relate to her at that time in my life, and just being geeky and totally into books. And yeah, me Matilda. Matilda is also a name that I would absolutely, if I could name any of my own dogs, because Lucy and Patty have both came with their names because we adopted them. Matilda would be one of them. Now, this one was another really good one. It was like, if you could have 6 authors or book characters over for tea, 3 past, 3 present, what would they be? So I started making notes just so I didn't remember. Stephen King, obviously alive, thankfully. Agatha Christie. Mm-hmm. Lewis Carroll. So there were two past. Tiffany McDaniel. I'd like to have more women in this list, but I think another one would be maybe Rachel Harrison, the horror writer, but like cozy horror. I think I'd like to meet her, have her for dinner. And does that give me 3 alive, and I've got 1 more in the past? Maybe someone like totally random, but not random, but obviously had like a stint of books and then passed. Stieg Larsson, the writer of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series. I've no idea why. I'm looking over there and I can see the series of books, and I did love them when they came out. So yeah. So all authors, clearly. Not that I want to write a book, I just want to meet some of my favourite authors. Then I had another bookish question, which was, do you read sci-fi or fantasy? So yes, but sparingly. So sci-fi wise, I've read the likes of Andy Weir, The Martian, and Project Hail Mary, both of which I loved. I would say The Martian still edges it for me. And I will try, if it's that level of it kind of accessible sci-fi, I will try that. Fantasy, I would say it's not a genre I go to, but there are authors that I read that do a bit of fantasy magical realism. So like Stephen King, like it and a few others are definitely air on some fantastical elements. TJ Klune from who has written The House in the Cerulean Sea. They're very much fantasy writer, but probably not. Probably there's a level of fantasy where my brain, like, is it the big chunky books, something Hob and like Fourth Wing and some of those ones, I do think that they are like not what my head finds easy to what's the word? Compute, maybe. But I actually find that with, I'll watch maybe sometimes more sci-fi fantasy films because I find it easier with the visualization part rather than, so like I love the Alien series. There are other ones that I would watch, like Interstellar and stuff, but I think if I read that in a book, my brain would melt. So yes, there's no non-genres that I'm opposed to. There's genres that I tend not to veer towards, which are romance and fantasy and sci-fi. But I'd probably say I read more fantasy and sci-fi than I do romance, and I'm happy to try everything. Someone's just joined me, haven't you, Lucy? Hey, you say hello? Patty's downstairs, and obviously, unless I carry her up, she can't get upstairs. So I'm coming back to you with 3 other books for Desert Island. I think one of them might have to be also Krampus for Christmas time, as well as what Halloweeny one could we have? What do you think? I'm looking around me. I think some of my, I mean, a lot of the ones up here I haven't read. Don't judge. I've got the Hocus Pocus book, but would I read that? I'm really struggling. I bet it comes back to me at a later date. I'm not a massive rereader, or maybe The Life of Pi, reading that again, because I reminded myself of it, or The Shadow of the Wind series, that might be a good one. Now I'm probably way beyond the 10 I'm taking to the desert island. Can I just take my Kindle? And my Kindle Unlimited subscription, can I? Then another question was about was a more personal question, not bookish, about my vegan journey. So I've been vegan for also, like, before I start this, most of my friends and family in real life are not vegan. I do not judge anyone that isn't. This is just my personal choice. And everyone do you, I do me. So don't, like, I'm not preachy. I refuse to be one of those preachy vegans. So 7 or 8 years ago, I discovered through a random pain in my kind of chest area, I discovered through going to the doctor and going, there's something not right, blood test, CT scan, MRI scan, ultrasound, yada yada. You've heard this story before, I know. Discovered that I had a hemorrhaging spleen that needed removed immediately, so I had open surgery. They literally got a big scar down here where they took my huge, giant hemorrhaging spleen out. They think I'd had it for about 3 to 4 years, and it was maybe just hemorrhaging off and on, possibly caused by trauma, unconfirmed. I'd never been in a car accident that required that, or don't play rugby. I do snowboard, and I have had incidents where I've snowboarded and really winded myself, but nothing that took me to a doctor, never mind the hospital. So anyway, that happened. When they remove your spleen, which everyone's got a spleen, should be about the size of your fist, 200 grams behind the bottom of your rib cage on the left-hand side. It's a blood filter. It's a key part of your immune system, but you can live without it, as you can see. It can often, there can be different reasons that people have their spleen removed, don't have a spleen, don't have a functioning spleen. And who knew that this bookish video would turn about spleens? I didn't even know what a spleen was until they told me that there might be a problem with mine. So it filters your blood in the body, and it's very good at filtering out bacterial infections and stuff. So it plays a part in your immune system. It is not the sole part, hence why I'm still here. But what it does mean is when you have that removed or it doesn't function, you're immunocompromised. So your immune system is compromised. On that basis, here in the UK, other places are different. But I actually think most, maybe also in the West, like the US and stuff, I think. But anyway, here in the UK, the medical advice is if you have a non-functioning spleen or no spleen, you have to take daily antibiotics. So I take 2 times 2 antibiotics every single day to help boost my immune system, which is great, but all in all doesn't really help your gut. So it's probably one of the reasons I now have irritable bowel syndrome, because antibiotics are amazing, but they destroy bad gut bacteria and bacteria and infections, but they also destroy your good gut bacteria. So that can play a lot with your gut. There's a lot to... Anyway, by the by, I take 4 antibiotics every day. And because I'm immunocompromised, I thought, let's start going down a rabbit hole of understanding what boosts your immune system naturally. And one of those things were like exercise, sleep, no alcohol, all the things that you kind of know help your general health and well-being. And then I ended up going down a rabbit hole to do with plant-based food, like no processed food, and also foods that aren't high in cholesterol, yada yada. And kind of plant-based diets have scientifically been proven to be full of but basically because you end up eating very few processed stuff, much more nutrient filled and low in fat generally. All of those things can help boost your immune system because you're just, as you know, like, doesn't mean I don't eat the odd bit of junk food, but I know when I eat junk food, I feel crap after it, both physically and mentally, right? But it doesn't mean I don't. So that was the first entry into that. And then I started to explore the impact of plant-based vegan diet on the environment and also animal welfare. So that exposed a lot to me that I wasn't aware of. If you seek that information out, you find out quite a lot. It's very eye-opening. So for me now, if anyone asks why I'm vegan, it's for the trifecta of health, environment and animals. But I came to it in the first instance through health reasons. I'd always eaten a kind of relatively veggie, meat-like diet. I'd been veggie when I was young because of Babe, Pig in the City, and actually the first movie, Babe. But then fell back into, and no judgment, anyone can eat what they want to eat. It's your own body. You do what you want to your own body and stuff. But for me, what I realised is actually the more plant-based, not vegan food I had, the better I felt, and therefore I felt like I was taking a little bit more control of being able to naturally try and boost my immune system. So long story short, that's it's not a long story short, it's just a long story of how I ended up becoming vegan. I think I've been vegan now for about 7 or 8 years. Absolutely so much easier to be vegan now than it was many years ago. I try and eat more of a plant-based, less processed vegan diet. My other half, he is vegan also and decided to go on this journey with me just to make it easier for, like, because I'm the main cook in the house, to be fair. He probably eats way more junk food, vegan junk food than me, but it is what it is. I don't judge. He can, he can do what he wants to do, and I will indulge every so often, but not as often as he does. So there. If you get any questions, ask me in the comments below. I'll answer this one as well because this one is kind of related to food, and it says, what's your favourite meal and or dessert? My favourite meals tend to be like, I don't have it's like types of meals, so like Indian food, curries, Asian food. I love spice. I love a 5-bean chili with nachos. I love, so normally kind of those kind of meals is what I would go for. Indian food is really good to get veggie or vegan because they'll always do like mixed vegetable stuff, and most don't use the likes of ghee, butter or anything to cook. Asian food's probably the type of food I cook least at home, so if I go out, I'll go for that. Now, when it comes to desserts, I have to say, I've not got such a sweet tooth as the other half, but I would absolutely, I could only pick one. It'd be a sticky toffee pudding with custard, of which you can get vegan versions. I am happy to say. Then that's back to another bookish question, which was who inspired you to read regularly? And you know what? I have no ruddy idea. I mean, I love the books like Matilda, but then I suppose I would have been reading already. And I think for me, it's kind of like it's a little bit of escapism. I didn't like I was quite geeky when I was young. I wasn't very good at following crowds, so I don't know if there was anyone in particular that encouraged me other than going to my local library and feeling like an adult, like I could take out my own books and read and escape into a world. So it was more, I didn't really have anyone in my family who was a big reader. Even to this day, nobody in my direct family, I don't have a large family, aren't big readers. So whether it was maybe school friends around me or teachers or librarians or just me discovering it and then falling in love with reading. Not the best of answers, but I can't actually think of, like some people like, oh, my mum or my gran or someone in my family read. Not my family, they didn't. It was pure escapism for me, for many reasons. This one was a good question, which was, do you ever contact authors to tell them how much you loved their book? All the time. Because I'm on Instagram, it's a really easy way to reach out to authors. So if I've just finished a book or I've done a review or post a review about it, I'll tag them and just say, oh my God, I really enjoyed this. Or if I'm reading it along the way and really enjoying it, I'll maybe tag them in my stories and stuff. So I'll do that much more often, normally through Instagram or TikTok. This one's another good bookish one, which was, who's an author that you love that hasn't published a book in years? And I kind of wish they had. Gillian Flynn. Although Grown Up, I don't know when that one came out, which I still haven't read. It's a tiny novella, but Gillian Flynn wrote Sharp Objects, Gone Girl, and Dark Places. Honestly, the OG of unreliable narrator, the twistiest thrillers. And I would love her to come out with something different, but on a scale of Gone Girl. Like, wow. This one's quite a nice one, which is about reading and mental health, and that reading plays a big part on helping me manage my mental health. And the person that asked this wanted to know, like, was there a moment where it was like, I didn't realize, no, it's not reading really does help me, like, relax or feel less anxious and stuff. I think I've always used it as a distraction and then didn't realize how much I was leaning on it as a tool within my toolbox of things to help me with my mental health until the beginning of the Panny D in 2020, where I realised I keep myself really busy. It's a distraction tactic, coping mechanism, so to deal with all the anxious thoughts in my head. And I hadn't realised that till I couldn't really do anything. And I was in Scotland or in the UK. I don't know if it was anyone else. There was a group based on your different health conditions, etc., that were a group of population of people that are identified as in the shielding group. So in the shielding group, we got lots of letters to say, like, basically you weren't allowed out the house, which felt like about 2 years or something. You were supposed to keep 2 feet from whoever, like, you lived with, not sleep in the same bed, share different, all of that stuff. Like, it was extreme. And I think that was when I was first realised that being immunocompromised and not having a spleen was more of a thing than I realised. Like, I was just getting on with my normal life after, obviously post-op and getting back to all that. But after all that, I just take my antibiotics every day and always use my antibac. But I wasn't germaphobe. I wasn't concerned that something was going to happen to me. I was just getting on with my life. So when that happened, I was like, And so that was quite scary and really isolating, and quite quickly it really impacted my mental health. And fast forward 6 months, I was speaking to my doctor. I was quite concerned about thoughts and feelings, and they put me on, like, online CBT, so you have to go through that process going, I think I need more than this. So they put me forward for a clinical psychologist. A few months later, I was able to get on the books of clinical psychologists. And when I spoke with them, they had pretty much diagnosed me with generalized anxiety disorder. I was like, have I always had this? It just happened? And like, I think your coping mechanism was just keep constantly busy and distract your brain at all times. So there was loads of stuff that happened there where when we were talking about a toolkit and how we did, and it wasn't CBT we used, it was ACT, acceptance commitment therapy, which this was all through the NHS, so it's another version. I wasn't very good with CBT. It works for some people, and I was just like almost fighting with the CBT, like the logic, and I was like, no but anyway. By the by, what I discovered was books were the way that we would think about things, and how I would start to deal with scenarios was about how I would deal with a story in a book, and how I shouldn't be shooting off all these different subplots with my brain. So we used those, the psychologist used those analogies with me, and that's where I realised that actually reading was something that switched thoughts off for a while and took me to pure escapism. Even if it was horror, it was like a controlled area of anxiety. So that was like, oh. And I got a deeper appreciation for reading and how it can ground me a little bit and just give me a little bit of space somewhere else, you know, as well as other things. I don't drink alcohol. I do yoga. I try and get sleep. I try, you know, not to eat too much crap. But sometimes I self-sabotage myself and I'll eat a sheer bag of crisps when I'm feeling crappy and I know it's going to be bad and I shouldn't do it. But sometimes you're just like, me, or I'll just lie down and have a nap, or I'll go for a walk with the dogs, or I'll do things like crochet. I'll do something with my hands that distracts my mind, as well as then facing some of the stuff. So that is probably when I realised how important reading to me was for my mental health. Sorry, I'm oversharing a lot here, folks. I hope that's okay. And a couple of other wee bookish questions, and then one about being Scottish. Someone's asked, have I got any vintage horror books? And I do. I have Amityville Horror, which I've still to read. I've got The Exorcist, which I have read. And I do have Grady Hendrix' Paperbacks from Hell, which is like a whole collection anthology. Or is that not? You don't call it an anthology. It's basically a book with all the references of different types of vintage paperbacks, horror paperbacks. So that is like a little bit of a Bible for me that I want to at some point tackle and trying to get some of them and read them. So I'm low in the vintage horror stakes, which I'm now really aware of, so I need to rectify that at some point. Now this one is, have I got a book that everybody loves but I really don't get with? Yeah, I do. I've got a few. One is Tomorrow, Tomorrow, Tomorrow. It's not that it's a bad book. No. I just went in with high expectations and just felt like it wasn't for me. I didn't really enjoy it. I finished it. I didn't DNF it. It's just it felt more middle of the road for me than up here. Amazing. Everybody should love this book. Same with My Brilliant... Is it My Brilliant Friend by the Italian author? I'll put it here. Yeah, I did not get through that. I really struggled with the writing. I know it's a whole series. Quite a few people recommended it to me and I was like, I'm trying, but life's too short to keep reading books, in my opinion. I'm not saying the book itself, my experience of it was. So that, and then the other one was Don't Judge, A Secret History by Donna Tartt. But in hindsight, I think Dark Academia is maybe not for me. So yeah, three for one you got there. And then a book with a memorable ending that stayed with me for a long time. And I have to say, because of it, and I really want to reread it, The Last House in Needless Street by Catriona Ward. For the majority of this book, you're reading it going, what the heck is happening? And you're also, it's the kind of book that you're best to go in knowing very little. And then I came out then going, WTF. Still one of my favourites of hers. She's released more books since then, and they haven't quite cut it as good as Last House on Needless Street for me personally. But they do, you know, many of them get great reviews, but that is one that I wish I could read again and experience that for the first time again. And last but not least is a lovely question, which was, do I have any favourite Scottish colloquialisms? Now, I'm going to say some of these, being mindful that in Scotland we have like general kind of, Scots is a language in itself. There's also, but in different parts of Scotland there'll be different colloquialisms, like Aberdeen up north, Aberdonians and people in Ayrshire in the west, and also Glasgow, and people in the Edinburgh and the borders. They'll tend to be even more like localised colloquialisms. So I'm saying these are Scottish colloquialisms, but also mindful that they may not be Scotland-wide, because I can't remember. So, I don't know, it's not really a colloquialism because it is an actual word, but saying it's Baltic outside as in it's pure Baltic, like that'll be what I say for pretty much now until spring. Just saying that it's cold. I'm away to get messages, which is normally I'm away to the shops to get my groceries. So messages like, do you need any messages? Which is like food groceries if you go to the shops. That's minging. Minging is a good word to say that something's just disgusting. That's pure minging. Normally putting the word pure in front of stuff is quite good for that. But minging, I like saying that's just minging. These are coming off the top of my head. Try to think if there's other words. Heed, like heed, something like you're off your heed, or like to say heed instead of head. It's like you're off your heed. Hey, oh, they do that in what do we call it? So I Married an Axe Murderer. He goes, heed, move. So heed is like a short word for that. Curry in. It's probably more northern Scotland to say that, but to curry in, to like cozy in, to get all curry. It's probably like the Scottish Highland version of like, what's the Scandi version of that? Huga or higa, which is curry, if you curry in. Boggin. To say boggin. It's another way to say minging. That's boggin, as in my shoes, like if I've just been out with the dogs and I've had my wellies on, it's been muddy outside. I was like, oh, my wellies are pure boggin. Check they're boggin. Just something's boggin. It normally means dirty or like that. I'm trying to think of words that I maybe say. I say I quite a lot, which means yes, like AYE. Aye, I'll go to that. Aye, that's all right. That kind of, aye. Hey, are you coming to that? Aye. Having a wee blether. So this is what I'm doing with you, guys. I'm having a wee blether with you, a wee bookish blether. So a blether is like a chat, informal chit chat, wee conversation. I don't know if this is Scottish or not, but say chuffed. I'm dead chuffed about that. Oh, I'm dead chuffed that I made 2K of my, like dead proud. Dead like chuffed. Or something like, I don't know, and again, is faff? Is faff a Scottish word? Like, oh, that's just a load of faff, I can't be bothered. Like a load of effort, a load of faff, like too much, it takes too much time to sort it out. Faff. F-A-F-F. I'm absolutely gutted. So that's something I'll say all the time. It's like, oh, I'm gutted. Like, I didn't get tickets for that book event. I'm gutted, like sad or disappointed. I'm absolutely gutted. I say we quite a lot, like we, W-E-E, and not as in a going to the toilet wee, as in something's little, small wee. Oh, hey, my wee pups. Did you just want a wee blether? Want a wee chat? So, I don't know. I might be saying some of these and these aren't Scottish colloquialisms. So you can tell me if that's the case or not. You can say nay. That means no. Maybe's aye. Maybe's no. Maybe's no. Maybe's aye, maybe's no. Anyway, I think that finishes up a very long chitter chatter, bookish Q&A, random stuff to know about me. That if you've made it this far, give me a high five. Thank you for staying this long as I ramble on at the end of that with a whole lot of bookish blethering at you. And if there's any questions, hopefully I've covered them all because I was taking them from some of my posts on YouTube. So if you've got any other questions, feel free to just ask them in the comments. And I will see you in another bookish video very, very soon. Cheerio! That's another Scottish colloquialism, isn't it?